it's funny. We said the first night we might have united the WNBA Twitter world.
Right.
Everyone was sort of supporting us and what was going on there, and the fact that, listen, I've been covering this league for 20 years, give or take. I don't remember in previous CBA stakeouts there being a stakeout. The league never really announced anything. There wasn't the interest in it. We got maybe a note saying, hey, the CBA's done. There just wasn't that interest until now. And that says something how the league has grown. And
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzer with you, the voice of NBA Jam. From top journalists and authors to rising influencers and insiders, Hoopsology brings you the voices driving basketball forward. With elite guests and sharp analysis, Matt, Justin, and Alan keep you plugged into everything hoops. From downtown, boom shakalaka.
So let's jump into it. And as we talked off air, you've talked probably ad nauseum about just you covering the WNBA CBA negotiations, but just for our audience that hasn't been following this story too much, and they're ready for the WNBA season to start in May, and it may not have been privy to what these negotiations, how important they were to not only, I would say, just the WNBA, but I would just say the sports world in general. What's kind of your feelings overall in terms of just your coverage, just how it turned out, and the ramifications of just these negotiations on the WNBA overall, you think?
So I'll say this. The CBA they got was historical and transformational. Those are the two words that I would use that have been used by both the union and the league, which is fantastic. I mean, itself, it was a grind. I mean, I was there with my three other, we call ourselves the Langham Four, our group that was at the hotel for many days. It was definitely a grind. I mean, I've done a lot of things in my life. I've never slept out or camped out on a New York City sidewalk for 15 hours a day and night for a couple straight days. And I'm a native New Yorker, so that says something. I've never had that pleasure of doing that. But it was, in the end, it was a huge deal for everybody. I think both sides won, which is something you don't usually say very often in CBA negotiations. But I mean, for the players, they have $1 million contracts potentially. So players are going to be making over $1 million when they actually sign deals this week going forward, which is a fantastic win for them. The housing, they have obviously housing paid for still, which they were looking for. You have the situation, they actually took care of some of the veteran players, the former players, by having back pay, which I thought was tremendous by them to sort of know where you came from, take care of the older players who weren't making as much money as they're going to make in this new CBA. So I thought the players got a lot of it, and I thought the league got a lot out of it. They have stability. I know Kathy Engelbert did a great job. There are things that the players wanted that she said, hey, to the owners, we got to make sure they get this, which most people don't know about, but she's taken her lumps, so to speak, in the last few months before this from the player side. I thought she did a really nice job, and to me, she was one of the winners of the CBA that I think that the players that were there saw some of her human side that they said was missing before that. So she's a winner, the players are winners, and the fans are winners. We play basketball soon, so that's the most important thing. I mean, my birthday is May 8th, which is the start of the regular season.
Nice.
I was like, gosh, you can't ruin my birthday by having any delay there. So I guess I'm a winner that way too. My birthday is. So I think it's going to be great to be actually talking about basketball now on the court versus the off the court we were dealing with the last 5 months.
That's awesome. Since you brought up your birthday and covering the W, do you know which games you're going to be covering yet?
Opening night in New York. I think it's Connecticut, New York on that May 8th, Friday night. Yeah.
Awesome.
Which is the own story, right? Because you have moving. So
yep,
it's the swan song for the Sun this year. There's something I think they're calling it. Yeah.
Yeah, which I want to jump into later. But you brought up Kathy Engelbert. I find that very interesting. I've been a harsh critic of hers, full disclosure. But you bring it up in terms of how important she was in these negotiations. Could you elaborate on that further? And do you think because of this, like you mentioned, the relationship between her and the players, it might be repaired and moving forward in a more positive direction? I just remember that press conference by Nafisa Collier. I mean, that was as scathing as a criticism of the commissioner I have ever heard. So to hear you say that she has really made some improvements, especially at a critical juncture for this league, I find positive and refreshing. So do you think this could be a foundation for the players and her to move forward in a positive direction, you think?
I mean, I'm a glass half full kind of guy, so I always try to go the positive end. And I understand the criticisms that there have been against her over the years that she's been the commissioner. And I think, as I said, there were 5 or 6 players that were there consistently in the executive committee for the union. So it's tough to say, all 156 players or however number we have now with the 15 teams. My math's not great. It's been a long couple of days, but I think that hopefully it gets filtered out to them how helpful she was in getting this deal done. It took a while, but it needed to take a while with how transformational it was. But I think, as I said, my understanding from people in the room was that she was very adamant that there were things that the players wanted. And you can ask what those were. I'm not sure because, again, I was not in the room. We were downstairs. But people in the know told me that she was at points going, no, listen, the players want this and need this. We have to make sure they get it. And that's an important sign to me of understanding, listening to the players and making sure that the key things they wanted, they got.
So just following just not only the CBA negotiations, but your coverage and your colleagues, I found it really interesting that there's a lot of support for you all, and even people sending food, just other things that you might need. Can you elaborate on that, and just in terms of the support you got through just the public? I mean, for any idiots that say that people don't watch women's sports. I mean, I've never seen fans support reporters and reporting a story before. So, I mean, can you just elaborate on in terms of how like the basketball community rallied behind you all in covering the story?
It's funny. We said the first night we might have united the WNBA Twitter world, right? Everyone was sort of supporting us and what was going on there. And the fact that, listen, I've been covering this league for 20 years, give or take. I don't remember in previous CBA stakeouts there being a stakeout. The league never really announced anything. There wasn't the interest in it. We got maybe a note saying, hey, the CBA is done. There just wasn't that interest until now. And that says something how the league has grown. And it was nice. I mean, listen, anything that people sent us was really special and really nice of them to do that, to support us that way. The players in their conference room in the hotel overlooked the street out front, and they actually took photos of us down there, and they were impressed that the people care. The media cares what's going on here. So that to me is a sign of goodwill or positive energy that comes out of this, that hey, we were there, the four of us, for the same 100 hours, give or take, that they were there for, that we were doing the same thing they were doing because it was an important story for us and for them to have it told. So that to me is a great sign. And yeah, I mean, people were supporting us. People sent coffee, they sent food, they sent chairs. So we could actually sit outside and not be on the sidewalk, like on the ground, so to speak, which was extremely nice of them. It was uniting for the four of us. It was uniting with both sides in us, and it was uniting, I think, with the people who were paying attention and cared enough to be invested in our coverage.
So moving forward with this deal solidifying, you mentioned now we can get into the season. Everything's fast forward. I mean, we're approaching almost a month out till the season starts. And we've had some big news with free agency with Angel Reese going to the Atlanta Dream. Just with that news, that shocked me. How about yourself? Was that pretty surprising that the Sky would make a move, moving, I would say, one of their franchise players? And a pretty dramatic move.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I was on a plane about to take off when I got a text saying Angel Reese is getting traded to Atlanta. And I was like, well, that's going to make for a fun plane ride, not knowing what's going on exactly deal-wise. But listen, there were talks last year that Angel kind of had some issues with some of her teammates and aired that out there. And listen, every team goes through something. There's always bumps in the road, especially when you're not playing well as a team. I think she needed a change of scenery for everybody, which worked well. She goes to a team with Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray that's going to solidify that. Jordan Canada. That's a really good core that Atlanta has built right now. So I think it works out well. It's win-win. You could say that maybe Chicago didn't get enough, but they got two first-round picks for it, so that helps them for the future. And in this day and age, it's funny, between the college transfer portal and 80% of the WNBA players being free agents, it's sort of, you could build a team within probably the next 10 days of free agency. So right. you could rebuild quickly, whereas in the past, the free agents didn't really move much, probably 5 years ago, and you'd have to build through the draft. Now you can actually build a team through free agency if they want to come play for you.
So it's very early, but have you observed any trends in terms of how you think free agency might go? We've heard some announcements that some players are staying put, but I just think it's free agency. People are bound to want to leave. So have you observed anything that might be a trend when this is all resolved, you think?
So my gut feeling coming into this, knowing how tight the timeline is, that training camp I think starts on April 19th, so in about a week and a half, I could see a lot of players staying put for a year, because they don't have the time to sort of wine and dine them and try new places out, see where it works out that way. I mean, The ones that are probably hurt by this are Portland and Toronto as the two new expansion teams, because people don't know as much about those franchises if you're a free agent. So I could see people signing for a year, and then next year there being a massive free agency movement, so to speak. I think, Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, they've all said they're going to stay, which are obviously three of the top players in the league. I could see a lot more players at the top level staying, making their money for a year, then maybe moving somewhere else next year if they are not happy where they are.
So you brought up the two expansion teams. How do you think they are going to fare? I realize that it's unfair in terms of, the rosters were, just made with the expansion draft, and it's a lot that needs to happen. But it's based on the Golden State Valkyries and how successful they were in their first year. Has either of these two new teams kind of taken that playbook that the Valkyries have created and kind of followed suit? Or do you think there might be some early signs of concern or any other observations you may have about the two new expansion franchises?
So I think Golden State might have ruined it for every expansion team down the road, how successful they were, right? Usually expansion teams have the worst record in the league the year they come in, they get a good pick the next year, and then they build that way. But Golden State threw that playbook out and said, we're going to be good. We're going to make the playoffs. And potentially, they had a chance to advance in the playoffs just because of how well that roster fits together. I would be surprised if Portland, Toronto has the same amount of success that Golden State had. But that said, with the free agency the way it is, and they can throw money at a player, they might get a top-tier player to go there, potentially, to earn that $1 million, $1.2 million, that could build a team quicker than a normal expansion team could. The ones, like I said, Atlanta was the last expansion team before Golden State. It's too early to tell. It's sort of a cop-out answer, but I would be surprised if Portland and Toronto have the same success that Golden State did this past year.
Well, another team you mentioned that's going to be on the move fairly soon is the Connecticut Sun. You mentioned them. How surprised were you that they are moving to Houston? And it was rumored previously, correct me if I'm wrong, that Boston might have been into running. Some other, I think, East Coast cities might have been in contention for the relocation. Can you just explain, one, how a bummer that this is for, Connecticut? They're losing their team. I think that's fairly unfortunate. And two, Houston, my other co-host, he's had a long history in Houston. He's fairly happy because the long history of the Houston Commons, they are coming back. So just from both perspectives, a team losing their franchise is pretty sad, but yet we get one of the original, storied franchises in the history of the WNBA returning really soon.
So to me, the whole thing didn't pass the smell test, so to speak. When this first happened, Connecticut said last year they're looking into ways to raise money, capital for the franchise. There was a chance they would sell. They bring in some other investors or owners. And it was rumored that Houston was a place they could move to. There's talks before they could move somewhere else, and maybe Houston would have gotten an expansion team instead of that franchise that they were rumored to be going to as well. Then Boston got involved. And the W's like, whoa, you can't decide where you're going. Boston didn't bid in the expansion process to begin with. Well, that to me is a cop-out. And then Hartford wanted to get involved. They had ownership groups that want to buy the team, move it to Hartford, still some placement games, Mohegan. And the same thing, like, oh, no. You guys didn't get involved in the expansion process, so why should we give you a franchise? You're skipping the line. I'm like, wait a minute. Why would Hartford even consider getting an expansion team when there's Mohegan 45 minutes away? So, it just didn't smell right to me as far as, there was some stuff going on behind closed doors, I think, that might have affected where they ended up going. Because the money that was offered by Boston and Hartford was about $325 million. Houston didn't offer that originally. They came up to the $300 million mark, and eventually at the end. But the ones who are hurt by this are the Connecticut fans. The fan base up there has been strong. They supported them for 20 years. The franchise has been successful. New England's been a great fan base for women's basketball. UConn's been so great for the last 40 years. So you're now getting rid of a fan base that's been a major supporter for the product for the past 2 decades. So that doesn't seem right. I would be shocked here if I was a betting person, a betting man, which I do bet from time to time, legally, not illegally, that Boston will get a franchise in the 2030s. They'll probably be the next city to get one. Probably they want the Celtics ownership group to be the one that is involved in that bid, since it seems all the NBA teams are the ones that they're getting the expansion teams to now, so to speak, with Cleveland, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Houston getting the move to their Rockets ownership group. So I would be shocked if Boston does not get a team in the early 2030s to give a team back to the New England area.
So is Connecticut out of luck in terms of their hopes, you think?
I would think it would be tough to see a team in the state of Connecticut in the WNBA in the future.
That's just unfortunate. Like you said, they always supported it. And then you did the history of UConn. I mean, that's terrible. That sucks to hear. I mean, I understand that sports and just the nature of this expansion teams, but yeah, it's a bummer, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a great job. They see on 10,000. It was the perfect sized arena until Caitlin Clark and co came along. So you're leaving a fan base that's been supported for 20 years, and obviously when all the UConn players in the WNBA came through, they always got huge ovations from the Connecticut fans. And it wasn't the UConn fan base. They had built their own Connecticut Sun fan base. So it's unfortunate all around for any Connecticut Sun fan.
No, totally agree. Speaking of Connecticut and UConn, I want to shift to the college ranks. First, just your overall thoughts of UCLA becoming the national champions, a pretty dominant win over South Carolina. Just your overall thoughts there. South Carolina, a perennial, really not only contender, but dominant force within college basketball, but yet fairly handled by UCLA. Just your overall thoughts there.
What a great story. I mean, there are a lot of subplots that I'm sure we can discuss at some point soon today. But UCLA was one of the most dominant teams in women's college basketball this year. And they had one loss, was to Texas early on in a tournament in Las Vegas. And since then, they basically ran through the Big Ten, which is one of the best leagues or conferences in the country, and were playing really well in the NCAA tournament. And their semifinal win over Texas was not the most aesthetically pleasing game. I mean, if you're a fan of offense, you were struggling. Then again, you're a fan of offense, you're struggling for most of the Final Four. But they deserve to win. I mean, a great journey complete, mission accomplished for the 6 seniors who were fantastic and stuck around and really helped them get where they wanted to be after losing to UConn in the Final Four last year. So really hats off to Corey Close, a great coach, does things the right way, has been there for 15 years and finally gets her first title.
Moving on to, another storyline that's probably one of the most prevalent storylines. That's the controversy between Geno Auriemma and Dawn Staley. It seems like they want to put it behind him and move on. Just overall, do you think that was kind of blown out of proportion, or do you think, that was a major issue in terms of how Geno handled that whole situation? Just, having some perspective looking back.
So I see two sides of this. I thought Geno was wrong. I mean, there's no reason for him to blow up the way he did at the end of that game. In his defense, or the rule that he was complaining about, because I talked to the NCAA about this the other day, both teams do the introductions for the starting lineups. South Carolina lineup was introduced, UConn lineup was introduced, 2 head coaches introduced. They are supposed to, by rule, meet at half court, shake hands, hug, whatever they want to do. That didn't happen. That's what upset Coach Auriemma. Before the game, and Dawn always does this, or most coaches do it, 12 minutes before the game starts, they walk down the bench, they come on the court, they shake hands, they hug, they exchange pleasantries that they normally do. I don't think Dawn slighted Geno. She didn't mean to I'm going to leave him standing at half court. I'm not going to do it. She's in her huddle doing her thing. When I was at the game in Sacramento, they played Oklahoma, same thing. She didn't shake hands with Jenny Baranchuk. But it wasn't a big deal. Just Dawn was in her huddle getting ready for the game, as a coach probably should do. I'm guessing the NCAA will probably change that rule down the road potentially, because coaches don't really shake hands that way anymore. I think it was always nice when they did the exchange of lineups, where they go one from each team, so to speak, and then you go to the middle, shake hands as players. Just a good sign of sportsmanship there. So that's what irked Coach Auriemma. His response to that was way, way, way beyond what it should have been. It was no place for it. And I think he shortchanged the players in South Carolina when he walked off the court and didn't shake their hands. I mean, great game, good job there by them to beat them. But also kudos to Dawn Staley. Her statement the other day after this all was said and done, and saying, listen, we need to turn the page, move on. Just a classy move by her. I'm sure that it sounded like they talked, Auriemma and her. So I think hopefully people move on from this. It's interesting, the night of the championship game, they always show a montage of all the previous title winners. And every time UConn came up, which was 12 times, there were loud boos in the stands. I didn't have to even look up and see who they're showing, because I knew who it was based on the reaction of the audience, so to speak. So it was a huge storyline. It overshadowed, I think, for a day, the play on the court and South Carolina's success. But I think now we can finally turn the page and focus on WNBA and the next college season and the transfer portal, which there are already 1,200 kids in. So that's
That's
the
crazy.
talk now. Yeah.
Before I move on from UConn, I talked to a WNBA draft specialist a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying just how Sarah Strong, not putting words in his mouth, but I think has the ability to be a transformative player, especially when she gets drafted. Do you concur with that statement in terms of how good she is and her potential and her ceiling?
I'd be a fool to disagree with that. She is fantastic. She had a rough game. I mean, Dawn did a great job trying to put Raven Johnson on her, putting a guard on a big, which is something that Sarah Strong wasn't used to. I'm sure Sarah will adapt to that next time she's on the court and plays again. But Sarah Strong is transformational. I mean, she's a smart, high IQ player who can shoot the three, can go to the basket, plays a pretty strong defense, just makes the right play. So when she comes out of the college ranks in 2 years, I can almost guarantee that she'll be the number one pick of the WNBA draft with whoever has lucky enough to get that top pick.
It might be unfair to ask you this question, but just based on, this year's draft in which I've heard Awa Pham is consistent number one, and then previously with Paige and with Caitlin Clark and with some others, where do you put Sarah Strong in terms of those number one picks? If you were kind of to rank them, I know it's kind of unfair to say. I mean, she still has a lot more of her college career left, but if she were to come out right now, where do you think she would rank if she was drafted this year?
I mean, I would put her third behind Caitlin and Paige just because of the other stuff that Caitlin Clark brings to the women's basketball, the fan attention that I've never seen before. And listen, Angel Reese is part of that as well. It's not just Caitlin Clark.
Sure.
Caitlin Clark is a huge piece of that pie. So I would still rank her number one, and she's a fantastic player. So her on-the-court stuff is really, really good, as is her off-the-court stuff. Paige, is same way, is an unbelievable player on the court. And she's also a player that brings people to want to play with her. Like free agency, she'll get people to come to Dallas because they want to play with her. I've never heard a player say a bad thing about Paige Beckers, which is very uncommon in any sport to have no haters, so to speak. And that's not Sarah Strong, sort of the same thing. I just don't see her being yet as vocal a leader off the court and having that personality that shines through the way that Caitlin and Paige do from that standpoint. So I put her third right now, but she still has 2 more years of college to develop and potentially move up to number 1 or 2 spot.
Gotcha. There's a couple of other questions before I let you go. Going back with the WNBA, what are you looking forward to this season? And we still have a bunch of free agents to be decided, but is there anything that you're looking forward to this season that fans should be paying attention on the radar?
I think it's going to be interesting with so many new teams, having 15 teams in the league, the playoffs. I think it's going to be interesting, again, how the top 8 shake out and who they are. I think obviously the Aces are the team to beat from last year. I think they'll still be really good. Fisa Collier, last time I saw her, was on a scooter still from having surgery, I believe, on her ankles. So Minnesota's been really strong the last couple of years, but if Fee misses some time at the beginning of the year, how that's going to affect their standings as far as the regular season goes. And there are a bunch of new coaches. I mean, New York got rid of Sandy Brondello, who got them their first title, and the players liked her. Chris DeMarco, I think, is a good coach, but we'll see. It's his first time as a head coach in the WNBA. He's one of 5 new head coaches, I believe. So we'll see how that all shakes out with new coaches, new systems, and what we have going on that way.
You mentioned Sandy, and she is now the coach of Toronto. And she's, I think, a fantastic pick. I was shocked when New York made that decision. Could you shed some light as to why they would make that move, considering the Liberty had been very successful? That seems pretty dramatic. You usually don't see that unless, a team struggles for a long time and then, that goodwill runs out. But that was not the case with the Liberty to make such a dramatic move like that.
Yeah, the GM, Jonathan Kolb, actually, to his credit, met with the media afterwards and sat there and answered questions. He was looking for somebody who has more of a newish NBA style system, so to speak, versus what Sandy's running. Sandy's offense has been good, her defense has been good. I think obviously the Liberty were hurt by injuries last year. They didn't get a chance to really have everyone healthy for the entire season. Uncle Jones was hurt for a bit. Dewey was hurt in the playoffs. He was hurt for a couple games. And Elijah Laney, who was so huge for them in the 2024 championship run, missed the whole season with an injury. Sandy's deck wasn't full as far as having all the players healthy for her to have success. And I think that just in the end ended up hurting her. And sure enough, they went a different way. And we'll see if it works this year or not.
Yeah, no, true. Final question for you. As you said in the beginning with the WNBA CBA negotiations, how that deals transformational, do you think there'll still be a push for these alternative leagues? And I don't think they're going to go belly up with Unrivaled or Athletes Unlimited, but we have Project B. Do you think there'll be still a force for these alternative leagues to, continue for players to not only have options, but also put pressure on the W as well, for the next, CBA negotiations that could be in the future? What do you kind of see as the future of these alternative leagues? And do you think that they're viable in terms of their success?
I think the two domestic ones, so Athletes Unlimited and Unrivaled, are going to be okay just because of the time of them. They're not conflicted with the WNBA at all. And I think the players enjoy it playing in them. They're still domestic. They can still go back in the market if they need to. Project B, there's too many X factors and unknowns for them. I think they'll be okay. I mean, I've talked to many of the people involved in playing in that league. I think it's something different. Is it long-term sustainable? We'll have to see. I mean, I just don't know what their model is. More of the F1 racing model of like going to different cities every week and doing tournaments there, and we'll see if that works or not. There's enough information yet to know if it's viable or not. The ones that could be hurt are the European leagues. If the W players don't want to go overseas anymore to play in them because they're making enough money at home, they could be hurt. You may not have the top players going to play in those overseas leagues, and that would obviously hurt those leagues.
Yeah, no, totally true. Doug, thank you very much for the time. Truly appreciate it. Can you let our audience know if you're on social media, you have any upcoming projects, and where they can catch your work as well?
So I always call it Twitter because I'm old enough. I don't refuse to use the other name for it. So just my name, Doug Feinberg, is where you can find me on Twitter. Blue Sky created an account, but I don't really use it. As far as my work, the joy of the AP is it goes everywhere. So I couldn't tell you find it in certain newspaper. It could be in every newspaper around the world.
Fantastic. Doug, thank you very much. Hopefully you get a chance just to catch your breath before the whirlwind of the WNBA season begins. I appreciate you making the time. Thank you.
You got it, Justin. Thanks, man.